Instagram teen accounts have automatic protections for what teens see and who can contact them, plus time management tools. And Instagram will continue adding built-in safety features to help create age-appropriate experiences. Learn more about teen accounts and Instagram's ongoing work to protect teens online at instagram.com/teenaccounts.
TaxAct knows every small business owner has different tax filing needs. With TaxAct, you can file yourself with the help of an expert, or TaxAct can do it all for you. You're the boss, the head honcho, the top banana. And TaxAct is like your loyal, trusty tax aide, ready to pounce on any tax needs you might have. TaxAct is dying to pounce on some small business tax needs. TaxAct. Let's get them over with.
Hello, and welcome back to Lovely. Oh my God, it feels so good saying that because I took a little time off and we're back. I'm really excited to do today's episode because it is also our first episode after our 1-year anniversary. Let's debrief what we did over the weekend because it was Valentine's Day. I had the most beautiful and wholesome Valentine's Day with my friends. You know, your girl is single, so we did not spend it with a man. But I host an annual dinner party every year. And this year it was Valentine's Day that I chose to do that. So I invited some of my closest friends. Theme was you can either walk in wearing pink, red, or cream. And thank God they all did. My place literally looked like a flower shop. There were candles everywhere. Everyone had assigned seating. I had personalized notes for everyone. And everyone, it just felt, we all felt emotionally regulated. And our cup was so full. And I've been thinking a lot about evolution and how we're constantly evolving through these different periods of time in our life. Not just personal growth evolution, because we are so obsessed with improving our personal growth, but I was also thinking about relational evolution. Something that I was thinking about over the weekend is how dating has gotten really bad and it keeps getting worse, right? And I think romantic love has quietly become a performance of adulthood. And I really want to unpack that with my guest today. But what I'm trying to get at is like being in a relationship right now doesn't just mean you're in love. It's almost like a status symbol. And it signals that you're being chosen, you're desirable, you're stable. It's like social proof. It's like getting that blue check mark on Instagram that you're verified. And I feel like if people are deciding not to date in 2026, like, are they really opting out of love or are they opting out of the performance? Because on the weekend, I was able to experience love through platonic relationships. So why is that not enough for certain people? Like, why is that not a symbol that you're doing just fine in life? To unpack that, I have Alexa Valavicious, who is a content creator. She also has a lot of interesting fun facts and takes that I want to hear from her, and an experiment or a mindset that she's taking into 2026. Alexa, welcome to Lovely. How are you?
I'm doing amazing. How about you?
I'm doing fantastic. So I know you heard me talking about Valentine's Day. How did you spend it? What did you do?
I feel like this was actually one of the best Valentine's days that I've ever had in my life. I feel like I just was doing so much. And you kind of talked about this too, but I feel like recently, this year specifically, Galentine's Day is becoming more and more popular. And I love how it's being more inclusive of all the single girls. So Friday night, we did a mother-daughter Galentine's with my sister and her friend and their moms. And then Sunday with my mom and her boyfriend, we did a little Valentine's Day brunch. So It was a bunch of things split over the weekend, and it was super fun to still get to celebrate even though I'm not in a relationship.
I love that. It sounds really wholesome. And I think something you said is what I'm picking up on too. Like Galentine's, the narrative on Galentine's and the tone, it went from, oh, okay, you're spending it with your girls to now being like, oh, fun, And I just feel like more and more people are accepting you don't really need to have that romantic love every Valentine's Day to kind of like show to people or even like kind of tell yourself that you're doing fine, right? But I guess something I wanted to ask you is like, of course, we're always on social media when you open Instagram that day or the night before and you saw couples posting, what was happening internally? Like, what were you feeling something? Tell me about like what you were feeling.
Yeah, it was really interesting because I think this year was the first time where I didn't really have any sort of reaction to not being in a relationship on Valentine's Day. I feel like in the past, I would see posts and stories and I would feel this huge sense of jealousy towards these people. But I think this year, because I was just feeling so fulfilled by my friendships and my family in this non-performative way, it almost made it feel like anyone posting on Valentine's Day was being performative. Like, oh, I have a relationship, so therefore I have to post something about them. And I just kind of viewed it like anything that I saw, I was like, oh, this is cute. I'm going to move on with my day. Like, I didn't really think twice about it. And it just felt really freeing to once feel included in Valentine's Day, but also not feel bad about being single.
What caused that shift? Like, why back in the day you might have felt a certain type of way, but why were you just like so unfazed by it? Where were you in your life then? And where are you now that it doesn't feel, triggering anymore?
Mhm. So actually, a few months ago, I learned that I had undiagnosed OCD for probably my entire life, I would say, or at least from a very young age. And the type of OCD that I have is rumination OCD. And it comes out a lot with romantic relationships, especially the kinds of relationships that I was in, where and I hate this word, but they would typically be situationships where like I would want the relationship to go further, but then the guy would just lead me on or leave me fake promises, things like that. And then I would be stuck being like, okay, well, like what am I doing wrong in this situation? Or just replaying everything, trying to figure out like what can I do to make this person stay in my life or to make this go to the next level. So after I learned that I had this type of OCD, everything started making sense. I was like, this is why I cannot let go of people from my past, or this is why so many things have just been such a struggle with me romantically. I made the decision a little over a month ago to start taking medication for the OCD. And that actually kicked in right around Valentine's Day or like the week before. And my mood is just so much better now. And I feel like all of the mental blocks are gone. I no longer really ruminate about much. And I feel like that is really the true reason why I was able to just feel so pleasant around Valentine's Day and not really care that I wasn't in a relationship because my mental health is finally in a stable place compared to where it was pretty much every other year.
I've never experienced that, but I can only imagine how good it must have felt to finally have some answers and to finally like have it diagnosed and being like, oh, like this is what was causing everything. Now that the medication has kicked in and you're seeing things clearly and you're not ruminating, what does dating look like for you now?
Yeah, so I actually told myself at the very end of 2025 that I'm not going to date in 2026. And when I say date, I mean like intentionally dating, meaning I'm not going to download any dating apps or go out of my way to date. However, if I meet someone and there's chemistry or there's mutual interest and someone were to ask me out, sure, like I'm down to do it. But I was like, I'm not doing this. I absolutely hate dating. I think it is just the worst thing ever. I don't want to be spending the little free time that I have forcing myself to go out on dates with like strangers, basically. I'm not doing this year. Like, I don't want to spend my time doing things I really don't want to do. Luckily, in my past, any man that I have found interest in has been meeting them like in the wild, if that's what you want to call it. But I would say the main reason I'm not dating right now is because this summer I'm going to be moving to Austin, or at least like living there over the summer. So I'm like, there's really no point in me trying to date right now if I'm going to be moving in like 3 months.
Okay, so you are open to dating, but you are not going to be intentionally dating, like no dating apps or anything. I would like to know, like, I hate dating is a very strong statement, right? And it is a strong emotion. Is there something that happened that has caused you to name that emotion so boldly? Like, why do we hate dating? Is it like an ex that did something that just turned you off?
I think it's just the concept of dating in general. I'm going to try my best to explain this in a way that makes sense, but I find it very unnatural to like download an app and be like, "Hey, maybe I can meet my boyfriend or future husband on here." And then you swipe on them based on a picture, which they could look completely different in person. Then you have to force yourself to have a conversation with them, and then you almost have to force yourself to sometimes go out with them because there's many stories like, oh, I didn't want to go on the date but I did, or vice versa. And it's just very strange to me to have to meet up with someone and have this interview with them with the intention of possibly making them your partner in the future, versus for me, like if I'm just out in public, let's say, and I see a guy and we are engaging in conversation, it's completely natural. There's nothing in the back of my mind that's like, "Ooh, I need to be on my best behavior right now. I need to look my best. I need to act my best, and I need to be perfect because I want him to make sure that I'm going to be a good partner for him." And I feel like for myself subconsciously, those are kind of the thoughts that I have when I am intentionally dating versus just living my life, doing my thing, crossing paths with the people I'm supposed to cross paths with works out so much better for me than like seeking out love.
Okay, well, I do want to get into that later, but I think a good place to kind of go to now is to kind of understand maybe where this is coming from, because I feel like a lot of our ways and thinking that we have today is formed in early childhood. And that's why I always like to ask my guests, what is their connection to immigrant identity? So I would love to really know more about you and kind of how you grew up and where you come from.
So, all of my grandparents are immigrants from Lithuania. They all came here when they were like under the age of 10, maybe. I think my grandpa may have been 12 or so. So they had to go through crazy, dire circumstances to get here. And all came to Chicago. And then my parents were born. And then obviously I was born. And Lithuanian was my first language. I had to do the whole like Saturday school thing growing up. It was a very big part of my life because my parents and my grandparents wanted me and my sister to keep our culture and be very close knit with that part of our identity. And as I got older, I really hated that I was different from everyone. I was like, why do I have to go to Saturday school? Nobody else does. Like, why am I the only one that speaks this language and nobody else does? So I was very stubborn about it. Now that I'm older, I have learned to appreciate it more, and I've lost the language just because we don't really speak it at home anymore and we haven't for a very long time. I can understand it perfectly, but forming sentences is really difficult for me now. So I have been trying really hard to get the language back because I feel like it's a pretty rare culture. I don't feel like people meet a lot of other people that are Lithuanian. And now I think it's really cool that this is a part of who I am. And I definitely don't want to lose that part of myself. So that is what my childhood looked like.
What was the energy towards dating as you were growing up?
I don't know. I mean, like growing up, I didn't really, there's not really anything specific about dating. Like I remember in high school and stuff, I know that my parents would have like let me go on dates if I had asked. I mean, in high school it was kind of the same thing. Like there were lots of guys that I liked and they liked me back, but it never really turned into anything. College, I maybe had two crushes. It's just never been a priority for me. Like I've always been very set on my goals and my personal growth and development and my friendships. And for me, it's always been like, okay, if there's a guy in my life, cool. But I've never felt like my value depends on whether or not I'm in a romantic relationship or not.
Okay, well, that's really healthy. I can definitely relate to your experience of feeling a little bit out of place in terms of, going to Saturday school and perhaps like having different food at home. And like I'm Pakistani, but I was raised in the States, but my school life looked very different. Like I used to wear a hijab when I was in like grade second or third. And then my mom would cook all these meals with spices and everything. So I would go into school and, people could smell that off of me. We would have Islamic school. Sometimes we would need to read the Quran and stuff. So I understand the experience of not fitting in. And what I was trying to get at in terms of how was dating and specifically marriage viewed in the household. Like marriage in my culture, it wasn't just romance. It was actually never about romance. It was about compromising, it was about stability, and it was about social legitimacy. And now that I'm like thinking and the wheels are turning and I'm saying this out loud, I think my way of rebelling against not fitting in is kind of continued now. My parents would be so happy for me to like be in a happy marriage or be in a relationship with someone right now. But I almost like sometimes rebuke dating just like you because I'm like, it's not serving me any purpose that I can't already do in my life. I like to date. I think dating is fun and I genuinely am attracted to men. But if they're not making my life easier, if they're not adding to my life, then I don't want to do that. So I guess my question to you is, did you kind of go through a similar experience? How marriage is viewed as a milestone and now we're like rebelling against that? Or was it pretty healthy and it's kind of just, again, your OCD and like just how modern dating is these days that's leading you to that emotion?
I wouldn't say it's necessarily rebellion. I think a lot of it is actually just getting really clear on what I want out of my life because I think like my grandparents and I guess our parents' generation too, like it was constantly shoved down their throat. Like after you go to college, you get a job, you get married, you have kids, the end. Like I feel like that's a pretty typical story for most people. I mean, I grew up thinking the same thing. I remember being in middle school, even high school, college, like having a list of baby names in my phone because I just assumed, like, oh, I'm going to be married before I'm 30 and I'm going to have three kids and it's going to be a boy and two girls. Like, I was so clear on what I wanted because that's what everyone tells you happens. And as I've gotten older, and as I've been through more experiences, as I've gained more life experience as well, I've just kind of realized like, ooh, this isn't necessarily what I even want. Like, this isn't what I really see for myself. And if this is what works for other people, if this is what people want, that's amazing. But that kind of life doesn't really excite me. And once I got really honest with myself about the fact that this typical societal timeline isn't what really lights me up inside, it really made me feel better about not wanting to date or at least like pushing that specific part of my life further down the line because why can't I get married when I'm 40 or 45? Like why does it have to be before I'm 30?
I saw this TikTok post the other day. 32 is the new 25. And if you're 32 right now, you are in season 1 of Sex and the City.
Really?
Yes.
That's crazy.
Harry was 32 in the first season of Sex and the City. When was the last time you were in love? Have you ever been in love?
Never been in love.
Okay. What do you think being in love feels like?
Oh my God. I don't know. I'm going to go off of the feeling that I have that I think was the closest to love. I don't want to say it was lust, but I want to say it was like adoration towards someone. I think it's just feeling like so safe and happy and at peace in someone's presence. And just like knowing internally that whatever you do, you're safe with them or whatever they do, you're not going to judge them. Like you will be there for them no matter what. I think that's what love is.
That's definitely what it should feel like. So I guess how long have you been single for?
I mean, technically my whole life, I've never had a committed relationship before.
And you said you wanted one. So did you ever have that conversation with people? And what did they react or what did they say?
Yeah, I mean, I've had that conversation several times with people.
And how does the conversation go? Paint the picture for me.
Yeah, so I'm trying to think. Like the last person that I really, really liked was a couple years ago at this point, and it's a really long story, but he and I had history for a couple years, and then finally we like got together and a lot of time together. And it actually was long distance for just a tiny bit of time before things ended. But during that time, like we had the conversation. I was like, hey, like, I just want to be very clear. Like, are you looking for something long term? Because if we're doing this long distance, and at the time, he was like, yes, that's definitely what I want. But then actions proved otherwise. So
And what were the actions?
it just ghosted me on a random day.
Ah, that's so freaking annoying. It just shows so much immaturity and the lack of ability to communicate what you're actually feeling. How do you get closure from that?
Girl, I don't know. That was a rough one. I think for something like that, because that happened like at the worst of my OCD, not knowing that that was a thing. Because again, it's like I don't have closure. My OCD thrives on not having closure because it likes to seek answers to things. I would just replay every single interaction that this man and I had. I was rereading all the text. I was trying to get an answer and I couldn't. And I really, like, as corny as it sounds, I think it really was just time and like allowing myself to feel all of the hatred and frustration and sadness and hopelessness and like really allowing myself to feel bad for myself instead of trying to like be the strong person and be like, oh, you're going to get through this. Like, no, this person broke me. This person broke me in a way that I can't even describe. And it really was just taking as much time as I needed to feel horrible. Like that's really all it took. And then after a few months, obviously you tell yourself, okay, it's time to pick yourself back up. Every once in a while for I would say the year after that, I would think about that situation every so often and it would still it would hurt a little bit. But yeah, I think time really was what helped me the most.
I'm really sorry to hear that. And I mean, I've had similar experiences. Like I feel like in the last like decade, I don't think I've ever had a unique experience. Like it's just constantly happening to so many people. And I know the pain that you're describing. And right now it doesn't feel that that pain is heavy because we've lived through it and we've moved past it. But in the moment when it's happening, you can't eat, you can't sleep, you can't do any other activities. That's like the only thing that you're thinking about. For people who don't know what OCD is, first of all, tell me what it stands for and what is ruminating OCD specifically and what are some of the other things that were coming up for you and not just like the over analyzing and wanting structure.
So OCD is obsessive compulsive disorder. And obviously, I think most people hear OCD, they assume that everything needs to be perfectly clean or in place, which that definitely can be a manifestation of OCD. But the type of OCD that I have, it's called rumination or perfectionism OCD. So it's basically like another, like I guess to answer your question, another way that it showed up for me was just constantly tearing myself apart, whether that's physically, mentally, just always like there's a little voice in your head that's like, oh, you're not good enough. You don't deserve this. Or people assuming that it's low self worth. Again, now that I think back to it, I'm like, it was just OCD playing itself out. Ever since I was a little kid, like I remember when I was little, like maybe 7, 8 years old, when my mom used to put my hair up, I would have a panic attack. Like I would be hysterical if there was any hair out of place, like if it wasn't perfectly brushed, if there were any flyaways, I would lose it. And once I remember that, I was like, oh my God, like this is definitely where the OCD started of just this like perfectionist side of me coming through of always needing to look perfect and act perfect. And it bled into every area of my life. And for so many years, I thought that it was just me needing to like work through my childhood stuff, or it was me needing to, using some fancy wording here, but rewiring my subconscious mind, like everyone throws around on the internet. And I dedicated myself to doing that for like 3 to 4 years, and nothing that I did was working. So finally, when I was in therapy last year, my therapist stopped me one day and she was like, "Yeah, so based off everything you're telling me, based off of your history, this is what I think you have." And as soon as she explained it to me, I was like, "You're telling me this is what it was this entire time, and I wasn't like, you're telling me I spent all this time like working on myself and doing all this self development and journaling and paying money to like work with mentors and stuff when really it was just OCD the entire time." It's difficult to express. It's just the same thought cycling through your mind until you can get some sort of comfort with it. Like if there's a question that I have or if there's uncertainty that I have about something, my brain has to go through all of the possible outcomes, and it won't stop until it thinks that it's gone through every single outcome for that specific thing that's bringing me anxiety. And other ways it shows up too is like to-do lists or like my daily tasks. Let's say I'm at work or something and I think about like all the things that I have to do when I get home. In my mind, I have to start repeating every single thing that I need to do when I get home in the correct order that I want to do it in. And if I say something in the wrong order, my brain like has to start again from the start. Like it's again, like it's like perfectionist. Like it has to be perfect. It has to be in the right order in my mind because that's going to make me feel like at peace finally. So, ever since starting medication, I feel like that part of me is slowly going away, and it just I feel so light and free now. It's crazy.
I can't imagine how draining and exhausting that is. And I understand why you don't want to date because in your brain, you want clear answers, you want structure, you want labels, and dating these days has none of that. Like there's no concept of that. Like you bring up labels, then they don't want to talk about it. Like commitment without any entanglement. Like you want an exit strategy at all times. And when that happens, your brain is constantly searching for answers, but there are no answers because it's it's almost telling you that it's you that sucks, but it's actually not you at all. If you find something like you're at the bar, is this something you would disclose to them?
I think so. I don't think it's something to be ashamed of. I think I like telling people that I have it actually because, like we were talking about earlier, I feel like there's kind of a misconception with it. And I'm the kind of person where I like to educate. If you are ignorant about something, like I will be more than happy to help you learn more about it. And I just think too, with the right person, they're going to be extremely understanding of what I'm experiencing and they'll be patient with me and understand that like I'm trying to navigate this too. I don't think I would disclose it like right away, but I think that obviously over time, if it was something that I saw going further, I would definitely want to bring it up.
This episode is brought to you by Redfin. You're listening to a podcast, which means you're probably multitasking. Maybe even scrolling home listings on Redfin, saving homes without expecting to get them. But Redfin isn't just built for endless browsing. It's built to help you find and own a home. With agents who close twice as many deals, when you find the one, you've got a real shot at getting it. Get started at redfin.com. Own the dream.
So I think earlier in my intro, we were talking about seeing couples be together and post on Valentine's Day. Posts these days feel very performative. Like you are just in a relationship so you can prove to others that you are more put together, right? But I guess I want to hear your take on it. Like when you think about being in a relationship, what do you think it signals to other people? Not what it feels internally, but what is it signaling externally?
I feel like I could answer this in a couple different ways. Right off the bat, I think surface level wise, I do think that being partnered up with someone is kind of this sign that you're like following the societal timeline that I was talking about previously. If you're looking at people in a relationship, you're probably assuming, okay, like cool, they're going to get married and they're going to have kids and then that's the way their life is going to go. For me personally, now when I see couples, I'm just kind of like good for them because I've learned especially recently that being in a relationship or not being in a relationship is probably the least interesting thing about you. And I think that is so crucial to understand because, like, okay, you have a boyfriend. Do you have anything else you can tell me about yourself? Like, I want to know about you. Like, I really don't care whether or not you have a partner or how you spend your time with that person. Like, I just really don't think it means much. Again, it could look like rainbows and butterflies on the outside, but is it actually a healthy relationship? Are you actually good for each other? Are you compatible? I feel like it's so much deeper. And I think when you just look at people, it's so easy to make judgments and be like, ooh, they're so cute together, or their life must be perfect. But you really just don't know. And I've had to teach myself to be happy for people if I see them, but not make that mean anything about myself or even them because I don't know the ins and outs of their relationship.
Yeah, you never know what's going on behind closed doors, and it's never as sparkly and pretty as they make it seem. Do you assume people in relationships are more emotionally stable?
No, I do not. I definitely do not.
I feel like my take is a lot of days I think people are getting into relationships because they think it's going to complete them, but they get into the relationship and they still feel incomplete. And then they also feel guilty that they started something that they didn't want in the first place. And like I said, if you're not like adding to my life, then you're making my life harder. And then that's what starts to happen. Having hobbies and having something outside of your relationship is really important. Have you ever felt like socially diminished when you were single in a room full of couples?
I'm going to say no because it wasn't everyone else that was making me feel that way. It was my own mind trying to trick me into feeling that way. I feel like the past couple of years, I felt it the most at weddings, especially because it's like you typically get a plus one at a wedding. And I've pretty much gone to every wedding solo. In fact, last summer, one of my good friends got married and I didn't really know anyone at the wedding. And I went by myself. And it was kind of during that wedding where I was like, this really sucks. I don't like this. I don't like being the only single person here without a date. I was going to go support my friend getting married. You know, that wasn't something I was going to miss, but I'm not going to lie, it was not a very pleasant experience just seeing everyone around me getting to enjoy this really special night with a partner. And I was just kind of there by myself. It was just kind of me feeling insecure because it's like, okay, well, all of these people are with someone. Why am I not with someone? And then it just makes me think about my past of like, okay, well, it could have worked out with these people, but it didn't. And then that's where like the ruminating thoughts would start up. So it's like one little thing would happen and it would get me to start ruminating about other situations. And then it would just put me in like the worst mood ever.
Yeah. And, I can empathize with the emotions that were coming up for you when you went solo. But what I will tell you is I have gone to weddings with like my exes and sitting there with them watching the ceremony made me feel worse than I feel if I went solo because I knew I wasn't happy in the relationship. And I knew that whatever ups and downs we had in our relationship, like my previous exes like cheated on me and I decided to take them back. And then you go to a wedding and they're talking about, all of these vows that you're taking, but then you look at your partner like next to you and it's like, oh, well, you've broken that vow like several times. So I would rather take the feeling of going solo and then, having to sit next to someone that makes you feel 10 times worse.
And that's a good perspective shift. I feel like I've never really like pictured it that way or thought of it that way. Because you're right. Like, I would much rather be single and feel bad about that than be sitting next to someone that I'm like, well, I don't even see myself getting married to you anyway. And just being like awkward the rest of the night.
Do you think we're moving towards a world where it's socially acceptable to potentially be single forever because it feels better?
I think we are. I really think we are. I have been seeing so much content recently on TikTok, specifically of women of whatever ages really, but mainly above the age of like 30 or 40 talking about being single and like not settling. And I'm not going to lie, these women are all gorgeous. And I'm like, I wonder why, because there is nobody stressing you out and you're able to fully take care of yourself and prioritize yourself. And I will always stand for not settling. Like, as badly as I want to be in a relationship sometimes, like I can provide myself with everything that I want. So unless you're able to bring something to my life that I can't already do for myself, then don't even come into my life. So I do think a lot of people are starting to adopt that mentality, especially as you get older and you have more life experience, because we've all been through so many shitty situations with men to where it's like, there's no point. I'd rather be single and just enjoy my life. And if someone comes into my life that is amazing, that's great. But I think so many women are tired of putting up with like bullshit.
Marriage is still considered a milestone for many people these days, but it is not the ultimate milestone.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
How old were you when you realized you were the son of a president?
I don't think anyone's ever asked me that before.
FX's Love Story. John F. Kennedy Jr. and Carolyn Bessette.
I didn't think I could love someone like this until you.
From executive producer Ryan Murphy.
It's not a question of if I want to spend the rest of my life with you. It's if I'm cut out to be Mrs. JFK Jr.
FX's Love Story. John F. Kennedy Jr. and Carolyn Bessette. Watch now on FX, Hulu, and Hulu on Disney Plus for bundle subscribers.
I am glad that you and I have this mindset where we choose what we want for ourselves, what innately feels good. And we're not forcing ourselves to be in situations that A, are not respectful, and B, don't feel safe. And 3, we just don't need to put up with. Have you had an experience recently where you've just been like, what the hell?
Yeah, actually, I did. Oh my God. It's actually, I can't even believe this happened. I always tell people I feel like I have experienced every possible scenario with men. And then I meet a new one and he does something that I couldn't have even conjured up myself. So this was a guy that I actually met on Hinge late 2025. So like October, November-ish. And after several dates, things seemed to be going well. There were a couple of things that he had done where I was like, ooh, like, I don't know how I feel about that. I'm trying to not write people off so easily. And like, it's very difficult for me to be understanding, but also have strict boundaries. Like, I'm trying to figure out what that looks like for me. Putting everything together, I'm like, oh yeah, these were definitely all red flags together. But individually, I wasn't really like, I'm not going to never see him again because of this. So basically everything was going really well. He ended up spending the night one night and nothing happened. Like we just like slept next to each other. And the next morning we woke up. My entire building fire alarm was going off, which hardly happens. And I was like, you have got to be kidding me. So we ended up just staying because they're usually just drills anyway. And as the alarm was going off, he got up to use the bathroom. And then he came back to my bed. And then like I had to go to the bathroom. And I walk into the bathroom. There is pee in the toilet, like not flushed. And there is pee on the lid. Like the lid hadn't even been lifted. It was just down and there was like pee on it. I was like,
Ew.
Am I making this up? Like, am I dreaming? Like, it's not that hard to flush the toilet. So I'm panicking at this moment. I'm like, oh my God, what do I do? I can't believe this just happened. Then I go back to my room and I'm like very bad at situations like these because when I get uncomfortable, I kind of go into freeze. Like I can't, like, I don't know what to say. I don't want to make things awkward. So I was getting hungry. Like I wanted to start my day because it was like 9 a.m. and I was like, okay, I'm ready to go. And he wasn't really making any inclination that he was going to leave soon, but I wanted him to. So listen, I'm a polite hostess. So I was like, hey, like, do you want anything to eat? I'm getting kind of hungry. So I just told him some things that I had to eat. And he was like, okay, I'll have some eggs. So I thought that he was going to come into the kitchen and like help me make his eggs. I'm in the kitchen cooking eggs for him, making my own thing. Meanwhile, he's just laying in my bed, scrolling on his phone the entire time. And I had to walk back into my room and be like, hey, your eggs are done. And I had never felt more like degraded in my life. Like I had never felt more like a housewife in the 1800s than I did in that moment. And I was like, hell no, this is not for me. Before he left, he didn't even have the audacity to like put his dishes away or like leave them in the sink. He just like left everything out. And I was like, am I your mother? Like, genuinely, am I your mother? He was 33. Like, he wasn't even a young man. He was like 33. And get this, on our first date, he asked me what my biggest red flag was in a guy. And then I asked him back, and he was like, I think it's so nasty when women don't have good hygiene. And I was like, oh, that's funny. Yeah. So that was probably the worst dating experience I've ever had.
Did you eventually confront him about those two things? And what was the reaction? What did he say?
So he acted so shocked that he had not flushed the toilet. He was like, oh my God, I could have sworn that I flushed it. I don't know what I was thinking. I'm so sorry. That will never happen again. And then when it came to the breakfast thing, I don't know how to word this nicely. He said that he had a boner, and he said that he was really embarrassed that it wouldn't go down. And I was like, oh, well, that's funny because like last night you were not afraid to like show that to me. So why are you all of a sudden like tuck it in, get out of bed, tuck it in. I don't believe him. I think that was fully an excuse being on his phone while I was cooking us breakfast. But I was like, really, that was the best you got? Like the P one I could have gotten over, but like even though that was still really bad, but I was like, really? Like that's the best you got? You could have just said, hey, sorry.
They think we're so stupid.
I know.
Okay, so we didn't see him again, right?
No, no.
Okay. Okay, got it. Oh my god, but like I get it, right? Like I think even people listening understand why when you make a bold statement like I hate dating or I don't want to date or I am being like not as flexible because when I have been flexible, these are the situations that happen. So I think at the end of the day, I genuinely think at the end of the day, the saying of to each their own is very true because your experience is your own experience and other people don't get to make remarks about how you handle dating because you've experienced different things. And I got this feedback once that I'm like, I'm a little rigid with my filters or I'm rigid in dating. Sir, you've been married for 15 years. You don't know what's going on out there. So you might be, he's a good man, Savannah, but they're not all good men. There are some good men, but the ones I feel like we're just talking about right now are kind of the vast majority of them that are showing up in our lives. So you kind of have to adapt to that behavior. And adapting to that behavior looks like, okay, let's get some filters on. But
Yeah, and I feel like with today's dating climate, you have to be very rigid because otherwise some of these men are going to try to step all over you, take advantage of you. I mean, I fully believe that if I hadn't said anything to this guy and I kept going out with him, he definitely would have tried to like do other things to make like me clean up after him. Absolutely not. Like I am not your maid.
and I feel like people should be on their best behavior when they're first talking to you. And when they're already starting off like that, then it's like you have nowhere to go. Like you've already
Like I don't want to see you at your worst then
Yes.
because that's scary.
Yeah, yeah,
Like I
exactly.
don't want to know.
I know, I know. Well, I do hope that you meet people with better hygiene, better etiquettes and mannerisms today's conversation has been interesting, and I think it has been validating in terms of like a lot of us are experiencing similar things when it comes to watching other people be in relationships. And I think some people that I see are in very healthy relationships, but also some are performing in adulthood to be more socially acceptable, which I don't think is a path for you and I, which is why we're choosing to do things outside of romantic relationships that fill our cups. And I think our younger selves would really be happy and proud of that, which is funny enough, a question from my previous guest. And I like to do this with every guest. I like to ask a question that the previous guest has left. So what would the 10-year-old version of yourself be so proud of you for right now?
Oh my gosh. I think my 10-year-old self would be so proud of me for finally learning to use my voice. I feel like from a very young age, I was always afraid to speak up or tell people how I'm feeling, or even just allow myself to take up space in the world. And I feel like in the past few years, I've really embraced that with just posting openly on social media and meeting so many amazing people through that and so many opportunities. And it's really funny because when I was younger, and I don't know if this is the same for anyone that is like a podcaster or a content creator, but when I was little, I was that kid that loved to make home videos. Like I would always make dancing videos with my friends or make fake movies with them. And I'm like, oh my God, that makes so much sense why it's so easy for me to be on camera. This is why this is so natural for me. So I think my 10-year-old self would be very proud to know that I'm still loving to be on camera and just, like I said before, openly be who I am and not be afraid to use my voice, because I did feel for a very long time like I had to be quiet or make myself small. And I'm really proud of myself for continuing to do that and step out of my comfort zone.
It's admirable to see that you've found using your voice at such a young age, because I know sometimes you can live life for many, many years and not vocalize exactly what you want and how you want to live your life. And I think you're doing it really well on your own terms. And what question would you like to leave for my next guest?
So I'm going to kind of do the opposite of the question that I was asked. So I want to know, what is something that you're putting off now that you know you need to do so that the 80-year-old version of you will not regret not doing?
Ooh, I like that one. It's definitely going to get people to pause and really think about it, because I think you almost have a very quick answer to what your 10-year-old would be proud of. It's kind of like that question. I think I heard it on a podcast, is if you were in a movie and the audience was watching the movie, what would they be screaming at the screen for you to stop
Oh, I love
doing?
that.
Yeah, so it's kind of like that similar thing. Like, what do you need to, I like that.
Yeah, it forces you to take accountability and to finally stop putting to the side that thing that you know you should be doing to get you ahead or whatever it is that you want to do.
If anyone listening would want to see more of your content, hear more from you, where can they find you?
Sure. So my TikTok is lifewithlex444 and my Instagram is lifewlex444.
Amazing. Wrapping up today's episode, I know a lot of these conversations are being had on podcasts, and the outcome that I want people, or the takeaway that I want people to kind of walk away with, is not the narrative that like women are tired, right? Because I think we've said this again and again, like it is exhausting, it is draining, it is tiring. They've heard about the two experiences that we shared today, but I think it's also we're less willing to perform adulthood through romance. And if romantic love has become the last socially acceptable status symbol, then choosing not to pursue it aggressively is radical. But it's not because we hate love or we're no longer interested in using it to prove that we've grown. But I think what we're saying is, if partnership is going to enter my life, it has to make sense privately, not just publicly as well.
I love that. I think that is such a healthy mentality to have, because at the end of the day, it's like, why does it matter what other people have to say about you being in a relationship or not? Like, what are you trying to accomplish by being performative with it? Like, don't you just want to feel secure in your life and happy and fulfilled, whether or not you're in a relationship? So I think that mindset is so key.
Yeah, because you said it. Otherwise, it's just performance, right? And like, you're in your own movie, you're not auditioning, you're the main character, and I'm not auditioning either. And it's that little girl in you that's like, okay, being on camera feels natural, so being in a relationship, that it has to be good for it to feel natural.
I just want to say thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed our conversation. It's always so fun talking about dating and relationships with other people and hearing their perspectives. So thank you so much for giving me the space to share mine.
You're so welcome. Lovely is an Immigrantly media production. This episode was produced by Sadia Khan and Shay Yu, written by me, Mahek. Theme music, sound design, and editing by Lou Raskin. Other music is by Epidemic Sound. And tune in next week for more Lovely.